So let's start with the chapter Plant Kingdom, which is the third chapter of class 11th biology. In this video, we are going to study about the classification of plants and branches of taxonomy. So let's move on. So let's deeply study the classification. So classification continuously changes with time. The classification at the very start was not very detailed, so we can think that studying the old classification is not very necessary. Instead, we can study the recent one. But the process to reach the recent one is also very important, and to study, to know how something gets started, right? So Aristotle and Linnaeus are the scientists which made classification system at the very start. In this type of system, morphological and external features are considered more and classified according to that only. So this is our artificial system of classification. Okay. Now, morphological characters had been given the most weightage for defining the artificial system of classification. So the question rises that whether it is right or not. But before answering this question, we know that it is easy. That's why it's done. It's done easily at first. Now, other question is that, is it based on morphological characters only? So, no. Because Linnaeus gave us the sexual basis of classification. So, what Linnaeus gave? Linnaeus gave us sexual basis of classification. This is given by Linnaeus. Because he gave androecium characteristics mostly in plant classification. That's why credit for sexual basis of classification goes to Linnaeus first of all. This is the earliest and the easiest classification we will come across. Now we become a bit better in classification. We considered many other characters and not only morphological ones. So that's how natural classification of system was made, right? Now, a question arises, like how will we remember which classification came when? Because, it might be difficult. We get confused that which classification came first, which came after that. So here we can see the first letter of every classification is in alphabetical order only. Like artificial system of classification, which is A, which starts from A, natural system of classification, which starts from N, and phylogenetic system of classification, which starts from letter P. So this is A and P, and this is already arranged in alphabetical order. Okay, so let's talk about the natural system of classification. We took morphological, anatomy, chemistry, and biochemistry characters in this, like which type of compounds are present in the three. We also considered these type of characters also. So it is the most accepted classification till now, and the most accepted natural classification was of Bentham and Hooker classification, right? So this is even today accepted the most. For example, in old botanical gardens and herbariums, the natural classification is accepted the most. In natural classification, we have considered the most natural possible closeness of organisms while making this type of classification. That's why the word used here is natural affinities, right? Here it is natural affinities. So the characters considered are morphology, anatomy, embryology, phytochemistry, and ultrastructure. You can see here. But the most important character is not even considered here, which is evolution, and which is the backbone of any classification. So a bit incomplete classification this is. Okay. Now, so the very first time when evolution is considered, it is in phylogenetic system of classification, right? And this is given by Angler and Prantl, Hutchinson and Takhtja, right? They all have given their classifications with modifications, and the most important is our evolutionary relationships, which is the biggest advantage of this classification system. Now here fossils play a huge role in it because it tells which type of fossil it is, when it came and when it was extinct, right? This play the most important role. Now when we come to the advantages and disadvantages, let's talk about the advantages. In artificial system of classification, we know it is easy to use and easy to change. We can modify according to us easily, right? So this is very easy to use. Now when we talk about the advantages of phylogenetic system of classification, we can see it avoids heterogeneous grouping of unrelated organisms, right? And the other one is it indicates natural relationship among organisms, okay? Now come to the advantages of phylogenetic system of classification. So you can see here it has clear view of organisms' evolutionary relationships, right? Which is the most important. So we can, two important terms we can discuss here. One is phylogeny and other is ontogeny. So what is phylogeny? Nothing, it's just evolutionary history, and ontogeny is life history. So you may come across these terms when you further proceed with this chapter. Now let's study the branches of taxonomy. First is our numerical taxonomy. This is also known as phonetics, or this is also known as taximetrics. So these are its name. Let's take an example. Like you went out in the nature and took a plant with you and wrote down all its characteristics. So you have classified it. Now, if you have computational software in which it will mention 0 or 1 for every possible characteristic, that whether it is present or not. Like when it writes 0, that means that characteristic is not present. When it gives 1, that means that characteristic is present in that plant, right? So a complete matrix will be formed like that, and plant will be classified accordingly. So it will be very easy to classify the plants, and it's a good thing that it is computational software, so the chances for human error will be reduced, and also you can consider many more characteristics at the same time. That means more characteristics you can consider in it. And if you want to compare the two plants, you can do that easily. You can input all the characteristics simultaneously, because it is very easy with the software now. So in numerical taxonomy, you can see hundreds of characters can be considered at the same time. So this is what a numerical taxonomy is. Now come to cytotaxonomy. This is also known as karyotaxonomy. So here cyto means cell, and if we talk about karyo, this means nucleus. Okay, so nucleus is inside the cell and we have to study for this now. And it considers number of chromosomes, its structure, its behavior. We have to study these characters in cytotaxonomy, right? So now come to chemotaxonomy. What it is? This is a chemical basis of classification. What it is? Chemical basis of Classification. So we can think, what is the use of this type of taxonomy? So we are going in molecular level in this type of taxonomy. Molecular level. Right. So let's imagine the Cucurbitaceae family, which represents family of cucumber, which we found sometimes bitter in taste. You can think that, sometimes the cucumber is bitter. And you can take example of bitter gourd also, which is also bitter, because they have different type of chemicals in it. That's why they are bitter, so that animals can't eat it. So such chemical nature are used for classification. For example, some proteins are present, crystals can be present, aromatic compounds can be present, which can be used for the classification. And the most important is DNA sequence. This ATGC is present in it, and this DNA sequence is not present in cytotaxonomy or in numerical taxonomy, but somehow students get confused that DNA sequence is present in cytotaxonomy. Why? Because chromosomes are considered here. But this is not the case with chromosomes. Chromosomes doesn't only contain the DNA, it contains proteins also and other things also. So you have to remember that DNA sequence is used for the classification in chemotaxonomy and not in cytotaxonomy. Here chromosomes are present, chromosomes are considered and not DNA sequence. So we have studied all the branches of taxonomy, and in the next slide we will study vascular and non-vascular plants. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you understand the concept.